joining us right now. I tried to get him on yesterday. I failed, but this guy's the best. I appreciate this guy so much. Joining us right now, Mr. Bob Kendrick, the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum out there in Kansas City. What's up, Bob?
How you doing, man? It's great to catch up with you. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Yes, thank you. Sorry for the mix-up. Silly me. I assume that because my phone number in my email is my cell phone number, that was your email too, or that was your number in the email too. So I didn't even think to be like, hey, what's your cell? I'm like, okay, we'll dial you at that number.
That's okay. No, we know mistakes happen because I make a bunch of them. So I fully understand.
So let's get into it. It's Black History Month, obviously, and I wanted to have you on because of that. And, the Negro Leagues and the Negro League Museum, I feel like in the last couple years, maybe since 2020, there's just been like a resurgence. It feels like there's an added attention and energy on the Negro Leagues. And for many years, it was kind of like swept under the rug or not talked about or not included. And I say better late than never. I saw, MLB the Show. They're celebrating the stories of the icons and the legends of the Negro League. And that's great for kids to be able to play a video game and get kind of like the message in the medicine. And I know that you're an encyclopedia of information when it comes to this. You obviously being there at the museum. But, like, how does that make you feel? Do you feel like it's better late than never? Or are you just happy that it's coming to the forefront? I just want to hear from you what you feel about the state of the Negro Leagues and the history getting some light.
No, there's no question about it. I mean, better late than never. Or as my late mother would say, you don't know what you don't know. And so you've now got this museum that is helping people learn about the rich history of the Negro Leagues and not just what it meant on the field, but also what it meant off the field. And so projects like you just referenced that we've embarked on with our friends over at Sony PlayStation to include the Negro Leagues in the video game MLB The Show last year was the first year of a 5-year partnership with Sony, and the reception was tremendous. And Keith, you're right. You see, we found, I think, an innovative way to reach millions upon millions of young people and young adults who perhaps would not have thought about the Negro Leagues otherwise through this gaming platform. It has been a game changer and one of the most significant ventures that this museum has ever embarked on, because the challenge that we face is always, how do we make history relevant? There's a misnomer that young people don't care about history. They do. But it is also important on how it is presented to them. And I can't sit back passively and hope that they come to the Negro Leagues Museum. So I go to you, and I go to you in a mode in medium in which you are accustomed to getting your information, and the results have been amazing. Not only are they learning about the Negro Leagues, but they're falling in love with the Negro Leagues. But as you know, what's not to love about the Negro Leagues and the players of the Negro Leagues? And if anyone should be in a video game, it should be the players of the Negro Leagues, the way they played the game, the style, the charisma, the flair that they brought to the game was video game-esque. And so this just is one of many ways that we're trying to impact a new generation around this history.
Yeah, I love it. I think that when you actually crack open some of the stories, it's like discovering something that has a real story and just learning information about where they played, how they traveled, how they came about, the legends that rose out of the Negro Leagues. It's something that I think everybody that's into baseball should know. And I say that to say this. We're also now getting these restoration projects with the Negro League stadiums. That is a way to bring the past into the present. So this year on June 20th, 2024, MLB at Rickwood Field, a tribute to the Negro Leagues. That's the oldest professional ballpark in the United States. It's the former home of the Birmingham Black Barons. And the San Francisco Giants will face the St. Louis Cardinals there. I don't know if I'm going to make the trip. I'm assuming you'll be out there, right? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, God willing, I will be there, man. I think that this will be a seminal moment for Negro Leagues history. This is kind of Major League Baseball's Field of Dreams tribute to the Negro Leagues. You know, the game that they had been doing in Dyersville really did capture the imagination of a lot of baseball fans, who immediately started asking, why don't you do something dedicated to the Negro Leagues? And Major League Baseball listened, and they came up with this idea to do this game at Rickwood Field, as you mentioned, the oldest active professional baseball park in the country, older than Wrigley, older than Fenway. And it just happens to be the home of a young Willie Mays, 17 years old, who walked out on that field patrolling center field for the Birmingham Black Barons. That's where it all began for arguably the greatest major leaguer of all time, Willie Mays. And unlike the Field of Dreams, which is a movie, or as I like to say, it is R-E-E-L, this game at Rickwood is R-E-A-L. It is real. This is a real tribute to black baseball. And if the good Lord blesses us so that Mr. Mays can walk on that field one more time, oh, can you imagine what that moment would be? And I know his health has not been the best, but we're all very hopeful that some way, shape, form, or fashion, he can step out on that field one more time, some 70-plus years since he was patrolling center field for the Birmingham Black Barons, if you could imagine this at age 17.
That'll be amazing. I pray it gets done. I also pray it gets done up here. So I think back in May, I went to the relaunch of Hinchcliffe Stadium in Paterson, New Jersey, which was the home of Larry Doby and the New York Black Yankees, the New York Cubans, and black baseball was played there. And, man, like being able to step out on that field and see it, it is brand new, it is fresh, and I'm already lobbying. I've been in touch with the mayor. I've talked about it on WFAN. I'm like, can we get a Yankees game here? The Yankees have been there. I'm like, can we get a Subway Series game here? Now, there's obviously a lot of logistics to, and hoops to jump through. But you mentioned Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. It's built. It's ready. They just got to figure out the rest. Have you heard anything about Hinchcliffe Stadium, and have you gotten a chance to get up there?
Well, I was there when it was designated as a historic landmark so that it could not be destroyed.
Oh, good.
And I'll be honest, Keith, when I walked out on what was then the blacktop infield, and I think as a steward of the story, you understand. And it literally gave me chills to think about the fact that Larry Doby, Monty Irvin, and all the other legends of the Negro Leagues stood on those very hollow grounds that I was standing on. And now to see that stadium restored, and the folks there in Paterson, led by the mayor, did a tremendous job. I haven't seen the restored version yet. I can't wait to get out there. And, of course, the museum is working in partnership with the folks there in Paterson on a version of a Negro Leagues Baseball Museum that will be part of the stadium project. And so we're really, really excited to extend this story to the East Coast, and just so excited that we've saved one of those remnants of the Negro Leagues in terms of stadiums. And so you now have Hinchcliffe, you've got Rickwood, which has been active, you've got League Park in Cleveland, you've got Hamtramck in Detroit. And so there's not many of those old ballparks remaining. It is just amazing to see the restoration work that has gone on with each of those projects, and really helping the Negro Leagues Museum keep the legacy of the Negro Leagues alive.
Yes, sir. We're on the phone right now with Bob Kendrick, the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City. I got to get out there. I was thinking about going out there the last series of last year's season when the Kansas City Royals hosted the Yankees. I'm glad I didn't go because the Yankees ended up losing that series. It was pretty bad for Carlos Rodon, but you're a Kansas City guy all the way through, and obviously we had some unfortunate news last week with the parade. I saw your tweet that you marked yourself safe. How are you doing? How's the community? How are people doing after that? It's unfortunate that we have to go through these things, but I was happy to hear that you were safe and holding up after that.
Yeah, no, I think it turned a joyous celebration into something very dark. And as you mentioned, it was tremendously unfortunate that someone, a senseless act of violence just dampened what should have been a great celebration, and it was up until that point, and it resulted in the loss of one life and a number of people who were injured. And so we are all kind of still reeling from that. Obviously with each passing day, you just kind of try and lift your spirits as best as you can, but you still grieve for those who were, in this case, killed and injured, again, by this very senseless act of violence.
Unfortunate. I hope that, those kids are doing all right. And I was happy to see that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and all those guys lent a hand. And Patrick Mahomes he's a king out there, back-to-back Super Bowl champ, but also a part owner of the Kansas City Royals, and they've got a new ballpark coming. And, man, they signed Bobby Witt Jr. to that long deal. Do you think the Royals are going to be back? They've had a pretty good offseason this offseason.
We've had a very active offseason, and I think it sends a resounding message to the Kansas City Royal fan base that we are in this thing to win it. And I think we have a great chance to win the Central Division. The moves that we've made that shores up our pitching rotation, and then to sign the face of the organization, Bobby Witt, to a long-term contract, I think, again, sends a resounding message. John Sherman, who is the principal owner of the ball club, he and I talk about this all the time. I mean, we want to be competitive, and we also understand, and he understands this, that our game is entertainment. So you get those stars out there, and you hold on to those stars, because those stars will bring that fan base. But I love the moves that our Royals have made, and I think we might shock some folks this year, because I think, number one, the Central Division is up for the taking to begin with, and our pitching has improved dramatically. And so I'm really looking forward to going out to the ballpark, rooting on the Royals, and seeing if we got some magic. Again, 2014 and 2015 was absolutely magical in Kansas City.
It was.
And so we haven't had a chance to feel that again for quite some time. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this young squad reacts. And again, J.J. Picola and all the folks there are putting together a dynamite team.
Yeah, 2015 World Series champs, the Kansas City Royals. This year, the 2023 World Series champs will host the All-Star Game. Bob, I hope to see you there. When I saw you at the Players Alliance Gala or Players Alliance dinner that we had, you're always dressed to the nines, Sunday best. Like, you were the best dressed the whole night. We were all judging. We were looking at everybody's fits coming in. You stole the show. The hat, I'm looking at the picture on my Twitter right now. I was talking to my boy Cheats and some of the other guys out there. We're like, Prez came through and was the best dressed. And we had Ken Griffey Jr. out there, Terrell Owens, CC, all those guys out there. So will you be at the All-Star Game this year? Can I look forward to seeing you then?
Oh, absolutely. Again, God willing, I will be there. So this is a big, big year. We've got a big celebration that we're planning to announce coming Wednesday, relative to the very first Negro League World Series that took place 100 years ago this year. And you throw in what is happening with the event at Rickwood and, every All-Star game, we're very fortunate to be able to make Negro Leagues front and center. The MLB The Show, the new release, comes out officially in March. And of course, we just announced last week the first 4 players in the game. And as you know, they include Josh Gibson, Buck Leonard, Henry Aaron as a member of the Indianapolis Clowns. For those who did not know that the Hammer's career began in the Negro Leagues 1952 as a skinny cross-handed hitting shortstop for the Indianapolis Clowns, and the first woman to ever be a part of MLB The Show, the great Toni Stone, one of 3 women to play professionally in the Negro Leagues. And I can tell you now, there's more heat coming. So everybody stay tuned for the announcement of the other players who will be a part of MLB The Show 24.
Great. Yeah, I got to tap in with the Players Alliance. How great are the Players Alliance? Like, all the people that work for them and then the players that actually represent the Players Alliance. They brought me out there. I'm sure they'll reach out again. I got to reach out to make sure I'm down with them for this year. And if you need me, Bob, let me know. If you ever need to tap in here in New York on the radio, or you need me to come through and do interviews or social media stuff, you know I got you.
Well, I absolutely will take you up on that offer. And you're right. The Player Alliance has been amazing. The relationship that the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum has with both MLB, MLBPA, and the Players Alliance is something that is very meaningful, and we believe that it will continue to have impact in not only celebrating the past, but utilizing the past to help promote our game so that we can grow it in the future.
Awesome, Bob. You're the man. This is Bob Kendrick, the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. Gave us a little bit of time tonight, Bob. Thank you again.
Man, it's always my pleasure. Thank you again for having me on the show.
God bless. Have a good one. 877-337-6666.